All right, the BIA pod is back. Season finale. Let's go ahead and get it over with, man. Buckeyes lose to the Miami Hurricanes, 24-14.
It's tough.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. My camera's sliding. Hold on. Sliding like that offensive line. Yeah, man. It was tough. It's even tougher. I had a bet with a Miami Hurricanes fan, my fraternity brother Brian, that I would be wearing a Miami Hurricanes hat during the pod. So, to stay true to my word, go ahead and switch it out. Put on
They didn't have one that fit.
infamous U.
They only had kid size hats and stuff. Come on, bruh. That jump squeezing in that jump.
I'm on the last button.
Yeah, turn around so we can see the back of it. I know that joint connected like this in the back.
I got to.
Hey, yo.
Oh, man.
Throw up to you, man. Go ahead, throw up to you, man. Throw up to you. You gotta do it for the one time.
Throw it up. I said that I was gonna wear the hat. That's about it. That's about it.
Got more.
Yeah, where should we
start? Fighting you than the defensive line, like, apparently.
You're talking about our defensive line.
Their defensive line had plenty of fight.
Yeah,
they had fight. they had the fight. They were engaging in mortal combat with our offensive line. Shout out to one of our TikToks in the past, but we were definitely the ones being finished.
Got annihilated.
Yeah, not in the way you want to be finished. So yeah, it was. Sorry, it's been a long week. Yeah, so it was a game that, you know, obviously as Buckeye fans, we kind of feel like there's a curse around New Year's Eve. I mentioned in the last pod, I hate the New Year's Eve game. It's just, even if you win, it's just not an ideal time to have to spend 3.5 hours of your night devoted to something on a night that's the prime time of that evening for that holiday. So that sucks. The game sucked. First half sucked the most, and then it got progressively better. Got to a point where you felt like they found a way to win the game. And then, you know, a couple big calls, you know, some bad first and second downs, and the game slipped back away from us into the hands of the Hurricanes. I think that we were overall, over in the first half, when I texted you, I said, we didn't do one thing better than Miami. Like, we didn't pass better, we didn't run better, we didn't block better, we didn't rush better, we didn't kick better, we didn't do one thing better than them in that first half. It was not the case of the better team just not getting the breaks. Second half, it was closer to that. But, you know, you dig yourself a hole against a good team that's tough to come back from. And, you know, yeah.
Well, yeah, it was definitely a tough game to watch, especially knowing that we had a special defense this season. Even, you know, going up against Indiana, we did a great job of stopping. Let me just say, the final score was 24-14. Our defense only gave up 17 points. The pick six is on Julian Sand, and also gotta say it, JJ missed the block, and it's just one of those things that you wish you could kind of take back, or you kind of wish that he would drop it, drop the ball. It'd be one of those things where he's kind of thinking about that pick six before he catches it, but he caught it. I mean, it was shocking to see that happen because that doesn't happen to us very often.
That's a good word, shocking. So when I saw him running, it like took me a while. I didn't see him actually catch it, so I just saw like I look up and I see he's like running down the field, and it took me like a second to understand what was happening. I'm like, okay, where's he going? Oh, he got the ball. Oh, there's nobody in the shot with him. Oh, we're about to be down by multiple score. It was just like,
Yeah.
man, you just don't. You kind of know that you might not come out and take the lead early. There might be some adversity, but I don't. No fan was imagining being down two scores that quickly.
That was so last year we were on the opposite end of that, right? We were the ones who were up multiple scores, and the majority of the games, the Texas game, that was a close encounter, but against Tennessee, against Oregon, against Notre Dame, we had fast starts, and in this one we just didn't. That's the one thing that's the most disappointing. I said we're not going to say it again on the pod, but people talking about Ohio State hitting this next gear, and the fact that we didn't see that this year. I've been thinking about it a lot since the game, and I think the main reason why we didn't hit that gear was because of our offensive line and the lack of experience from Julian Sand. That has to be the reason why. Now, and also the fact that last year we had Travion and Quinshon. So three reasons. But the fact of the matter is, they played at a pace that Ryan Day was, I guess, comfortable seeing the offense run. We did step up that pace in the second half during parts of it, but I believe I've seen from other podcasts, from other coverage, we only had three meaningful possessions in that second half. So what are you going to do? Being down 14 going to half, also missing a kick going into half, which was not even close. Already coming into the game with kicking woes, it just was it just wasn't Ohio State tonight. Um, and so now we move forward. I mean, we got no choice but to move forward here. We're on the eve of the semifinal game, which we would have played in against Ole Miss, which was a surprising. Uh, I think one of the. I'm not, I don't. Here's the thing. I think that the Ole Miss beating Georgia was more surprising than Miami beating us. However, the Miami being a 10 seed, and for us to be number two seed is apparently the biggest upset in college football playoff history. Um, but I say that to say, like, I wasn't necessarily surprised that Miami beat us. It was the way in which it happened, but I was more so surprised at Ole Miss. So I say that to say, like, um, man, what could have been? What could have been? This is an Ole Miss team whose coaches are leaving to and are at LSU now. The majority of their coaches, from what I understand, except for their offensive coordinator, and obviously their head coach. But I mean, man, it's just like they are. Um, that would have been interesting, to say the least. To see to go up against a team like that. Now Miami gets to go up against that Ole Miss team. Um, and guess on the Ohio State side of things, I think the things that jump out to me right now, right before we started recording, I sent out an article from 11 Warriors. Shout out to 11 Warriors on basically how we need to be patient during this time in terms of the portal because we have 20 plus players in the portal. We've got Caleb Downs going to the NFL draft, Cardinal Tate going to the NFL draft. We knew that Iggy was going to the NFL draft. I don't know if there's anyone else that I'm missing so far who are draft eligible and who have declared. But I mean, those are big names. You know, my thought is for next year, what do we need? Who do we need to pick up in the portal? And what positions? The things that step up in my mind, and I'll close here: offensive line, DBs, and right now I can't believe I'm saying this at Ohio State wide receiver. So I've rambled on a little bit. Phil, what are some of the things that you're thinking on?
Well, first, I just think it's important to note that you know Ohio State's quarterback. With all the like questions right now about Ohio State, why weren't they able to do this? Why couldn't Ryan Day get them ready? Why was Julian Sand not ready? It's important to remember the quarterback we faced, old man Carson Beck, has started, multiple years. We've got a bunch of super seniors at quarterback. Mendoza, the best quarterback left in the draft, also a grown man. We look at who won the championship last year. Will Howard, grown
Yeah,
man,
wow.
23 years old. We have JJ McCarthy, who was senior. We have Stetson Bennett, the oldest man, who was basically 25 one year, 24 the year before that. You've got Mac Jones as a senior. You've got Joe Burrow as a senior. You've got a history. If you look at the last like 7 years of college football, even though quarterbacks might play young, they typically win when they're older. And when a lot of the quarterbacks who won have been transfer quarterbacks. Those transfer quarterbacks are not sophomores who didn't play their freshman year who are transferring. They are transfer quarterbacks who have probably started for 2 or 3 years at major programs and are doing one more year. So I think it's just important to remember like that Julian Sand not being able to get it done at 20 years old is not somehow some anomaly. That's what college football looks like right now. That's why when you think about the major teams this offseason, you're thinking about how can, LSU is not thinking about who do we have in our quarterback room. They're thinking like who is the 22-year-old that we can go out and get for our team. And so, I don't think Ohio State will do that, but it's not a crazy thing for them to think about because there's a proven kind of track record that actually works in winning. It's really hard to win. Lack of experience is real. And so I just don't want to, I don't want to kind of skate over that. Now that it's not an excuse, it's just a reality that Julian Sand would be expected to win later. Yeah, there's not really a great replacement for experience. In terms of replacements for the roster, I just think it's like the transfer portal opens, it's hectic, it's a lot. I happen to on Reddit. Not a part of the Michigan Reddit, but I get their alerts because during the during the debacle with your favorite coach, Sherrone Moore, I was
Wait,
I
what?
was on there. I know you were supportive of him privately. Sorry to make that public, but so anyway, so I
Oh
was
my
because of that I
god!
was
I don't.
on the Reddit a lot, and so now it gives me alerts. And I've seen like every portal thing that everybody goes in the portal, I get an alert, and they're like freaking out. But the reality is like a lot of top teams have dozens of people jumping in the portal right now. Some of them will actually stay, and so I think it's too early to say whether or not it's a problem for Ohio State. Um, we've got a lot of talented people, a lot of talented players. I don't think we're going to be struggling, but I think I'm interested to see if we get at least 2 or 3 additions from the portal that make a difference that we can be excited about. And I think that'll end up being more important than who leaves. I don't think who leaves will end up being the biggest story for Ohio State come next year. I don't think we'll be in week 5 saying like, oh man, these people who, for the most part, were not contributors this year left the team. I believe in the depth that's there. Like wide receiver is a great example. We need wide receiver depth. We still would have a wide receiver room that I wouldn't trade right now for any other room. With if you're saying like Ohio State's in trouble because we need wide receivers, no, we don't. Like, our three wide receivers are still better than all the other wide receivers. It's just the fact that we don't have a solid fourth option right now. Does Ohio State use their fourth option? No. That's why those guys are leaving. So it's like I don't want. I think it's crazy to like be concerned about Graham and Porter leaving when those guys didn't play, and it's most likely that the 4 and 5 will not play next year. But you still need them just in case. And so, yeah.
So the receiver room you're referring to is Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, and Chris Henry Jr.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying Jeremiah Smith is obviously the best receiver in the league. Chris Henry Jr. will be the most hyped freshman coming in. Obviously, we don't know what he's going to do until he does it, but we know he's going to get a chance to play if he's good enough because we saw that with Jeremiah Smith. And then we have Brandon Ennis, who is a returning captain for the Ohio State team. I'm saying, yeah,
So
that
it's confirmed that he's coming back.
it's not confirmed. It's just I think he would have jumped in early in the portal if he wanted to establish himself as the wide receiver one in the portal. And the draft doesn't make any sense for somebody who didn't have that many catches and doesn't have great size. So,
Okay.
yeah, my only point, the example of that is just it's not a concern like this Ohio State team's deficiency will be wide receiver. It's that you need depth, but again, we don't play five guys at wide receiver, so it can't be a concern about our fifth receiver when we have never seen the fifth receiver make an impact for Ohio State.
I mean, that's a fair point. Great point that you made about the quarterbacking experience. I'm not sure where the Sharon Morris stuff came, so we'll strike that from the record. Uh, and also, just the So let me ask you this: since it's not about who left, but it's about who could potentially come in. Who would you like to see, or at what position would you like to see us grab someone who would come in day one and make an impact?
Defensive tackle, offensive tackle, right
Left,
guard,
right,
left guard,
right.
left tackle.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the O line completely. And the thing about it is that we may not get. It's hard to get poor people in the. It's hard to get O linemen in the portal. It's just like something that
Yeah.
it's very rare. Maybe you have like one or two guys a year, and if it is, it's more likely to be the interior guys that come in. Like maybe a center you get. Seth McLaughlin was a great pickup for us a couple years ago, but I just don't see it actually happening. Defensive line, I think, is way more possible. I know that we've got a visit with two guys from Alabama that's coming up. I think this week or next week.
Yeah.
And we needed like defensive tackle was supposed to be a weak point of this team this year, and then we end up having the best defensive tackle in the whole country. That's what I'm talking about. It's like that is if you remember what the conversation was about Ohio State this year, this time last year, or after we won the championship, but like maybe in the summer, it was like, hey, our defensive line is going to struggle. Who they have defensive tackle? There's no depth at tackle. They're going to have to go out and get somebody at tackle. They didn't. and they played well at tackle, and they end up having the guy who's going to be maybe one of the first tackles off the board. So I just think that there is talent there. It's going to have to be developed, but I would like to have some bodies in there because somebody like Ty Malone is somebody who wasn't a great player but had a lot of experience and size. And I say his name wrong.
No.
Okay, so like that's a guy that like he wasn't a difference maker, but he was a good solid piece. That's the kind of guy we can get in the portal. I think we can get a time alone. We got him in the portal in the first place. I think we get another time alone in the portal, and maybe another edge rusher in the portal. I wouldn't mind a linebacker in the portal, and maybe a running back. That's the one. This only rumor right now, but the Bo Jackson thing is the only person that would leave and make me concerned. Everybody else, I think, is fine. Bo Jackson leaving would make me concerned. That's a legitimate loss that we could say in week 5. Damn, if only we had Bo Jackson. But that's just a rumor right now. I think right now he's just negotiating, which is part of the game, and so I don't think that's necessarily a reason to panic.
I just wanted to bring up the reason why I made a face was because I'm gonna get this name wrong, but the two Alabama defensive linemen who are visiting Ohio State are James Smith
Oh, no, not
and
hard. You said it right. Good job.
thank you. No, well, the second name, believe his name is Quay, but it's spelled Qua.
Mhm.
Rusaw. They were both high school teammates as well, so that's a plus. Like I think that if they are both starters, there could be some familiarity with one another in chemistry. Um, and I'll just hope that one of the things that on the defensive side of the ball that we're able to pick up some impact players because of Matt Patricia and what he was able to do
Mhm.
this past season. I think just with the relationships he's been able to build, with the scheme that he throws out there, and along with that scheme comes a wealth of experience that he's able to display. I think that'll be great.
Yeah, Chaz
But
Coleman is the other. Chaz Coleman is the other
yes,
defensive lineman that there's a lot of hype around. That, but it's going to be a bidding war. It's going to be tough to get him.
yeah,
From a lot of schools are going to want him because he's young. He's only going to be a sophomore, and so he hasn't really produced that much. But he's athletic, shown some some glimpses, and if
mhm,
you get him, you might have him for 2 years at least. Kind of like Caleb Downs, except Caleb Downs was the leading tackler for Alabama in his freshman year, so kind of different in that sense. But yeah, there's going to be. But either way, those guys, even if a guy doesn't come to Ohio State, if Chad doesn't come to Ohio State, Chaz is still visiting with Ohio State because Ohio State is still this destination. And us losing 20 people in the portal does not change any of that. When you look at like where guys are going, they're not going to better teams. They're just going somewhere else where they can get more money or more playing time. And I think like I think for Ohio State fans, the same way for Georgia fans and Alabama fans and all fans of like prestigious universities, they have to get out of their head this idea that like people don't want to leave here because we're so good. That's just not what it is. They want to. They don't necessarily want to leave Ohio State, but they want to go somewhere else where they can get more money or more playing time, and it's easy to do it. And so, because it's so easy to do it, there's really no reason not to do it outside of loyalty. Um, and I think that's something that's just not there very much anymore. So yeah, we got to take our feelings out of the sting of seeing players leave. The only team that has that really on lock, that's had that on lock for the last 5 years, is Clemson. So, would you want to be
wait, wait,
Clemson?
wait. Oh, you're saying in terms of retaining players.
Clemson doesn't lose a lot of players. They don't lose a lot of players to the portal. Like compared to other top programs, they hold on to a lot more of their players. They also don't take players, and
Right.
you don't want to be Clemson, right? I watched that Pinstripe Bowl. You don't want to be Clemson, so it's like that's the way. Like you can't have it both ways. You got to be. You're in. If you're in the game, this is part of the game. You either retreat all the way, you become Clemson, or you know that it's kind of ugly. And between now and August, you don't know what the team's going to look like. And then the same way this year, you end up with a defense that was number one in the country after they come in with a lot of question marks. Same thing that can happen next year.
Um, Speaking of next year, the schedule is one of the things that is definitely going to be on my mind all off season. I have no idea if there's any revamping of the Big Ten schedule. I don't think that's going to happen. But off the top of my head, we play at Texas as a non-conference. We play at Indiana. We play at USC. Um, Home games against Oregon, as far as a notable home game. I think that's the toughest home game we've got. Of course, we've got Michigan at the end of the year. We also play at Iowa. The only reason I mention that is just because Iowa is can be a tricky place to play depending on the time of the year. Um, but and I know at Indiana nobody's scared to play at Indiana. It's just Indiana's looking different, man. It's just they're not the same old Indiana. And we're gonna get to them in a second in terms of our predictions before we close the show. But that's just something that's on my mind. Like, what is Ryan Day's philosophy going to be going into this next year? And also just understanding that if we end up falling to Texas, it's not the end of the world at the beginning of the year. You know, but we're gonna have to win most of the rest of the games. So
Are you so when you look at that schedule, you said you're concerned about it. You named, I guess, like four losable games. Some right there. You're saying like Indiana, Oregon, Texas. Um, I don't know. Was Iowa the fourth one that's a losable game in there?
I would say three. I'm just saying I'm noting games that are tougher than the games we had this year.
Okay, so so if Ohio State goes 10-2 next year. Oh yeah, Michigan. That's the other one that I would say. Obviously, we can't. I'm not going back and adding that it's not losable anymore. Like I'm not that much of a nut.
Yeah, we can't
So
get. Yeah.
okay, so 10-2 Ohio State next year. You pissed about that, or you
No,
excited to go again?
I mean that's a play. I believe that's a playoff team.
With that schedule,
I mean,
yeah.
as long as that other as you know, let's just say we lose to Texas. As long as it's not to Michigan, I mean we're still a playoff team. But I think that yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good. I want to actually bring that in. So I'm hearing a lot of Ohio State fans kind of woe is me right now about Ohio State losing in the playoff. This time last year, I was hearing Ohio State fans say, or I guess in December last year, I
Hmm.
don't care what Ohio State does against Tennessee. I don't care if we win the first round of the playoffs. We lost to Michigan. Now there's a lot of conversation and a lot of threads about I'd rather beat Michigan than fill in the blank. And that includes winning playoff games, winning championships. It doesn't matter if you can't beat Michigan. There were some less fans were still saying that after we actually won the championship. I would say a lot of fans were saying that beforehand. And then when you actually win, it's like, oh, okay, actually, I kind of like this. But I just feel like everybody now we beat Michigan. That was the whole thing was like this year we got a redshirt freshman quarterback. We got a defensive line that nobody knows is going to be any good. And so we're probably not going to make it back to win a championship. But if we can beat Michigan, it would be a success. What did we do? We went 12-0 for the regular season and beat Michigan. And all I hear is how disappointing it is. It might be disappointing, but that means y'all were lying last year. Y'all told me the most important thing was beating Michigan. And we beat Michigan at Michigan definitively. And nobody is talking about that right now at the end of the season. This is the first time we're talking about it as we're wrapping up our podcast for the year. And that was supposed to be the most important mission for this team this year. They achieved it with winning colors. And so I just feel like the fan base is being a little hypocritical. I understand. I'm disappointed too that we lost. But I just think perspective wise, going into this season, and even in the end of last season, the story was at Ohio State, the Michigan game is so important that those fans don't even care about if they win the championship. They only care about beating their rival. And that makes this rivalry unique. And here we are, and we've switched up. I'll put myself in there too. I won't hate on y'all, Buckeye Nation. We have switched up, and I'm just noticing it.
Yeah, I mean next year it's just the thing is that it's going to be tougher. I think that you'd love to go into next season with the core nucleus of the roster that we had this year, even, but with some coaching changes. I mean, we still have to hire an offensive coordinator, um, and the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, Todd Munkin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's okay. So that's him and Brian Dayball. Those are named Cliff Kingsbury.
Don't want Day. I'd rather have Kingsbury than Dayball.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on
Watching
and on.
Dayball in those like those draft interview videos, I don't.
Yeah,
That's the reason why I
as
don't.
a Commanders fan, I already didn't like the guy, but I mean, I think that um, they had one good season that I can remember. The Giants had one good season where they won a playoff game. Um, I can't even remember, bro. It's been that long. So either way, yeah. I mean, who knows what's going to end up happening? things that we'll talk about next year. And I guess we'll close on the fact that we beat Michigan. Highlights of the year: we beat Michigan. We won all of our regular season games. Great win in the beginning of the season against Texas. Great defense. Matt Patricia looks like he's coming back, so that's going to be great. And you just have to trust the machine moving forward, man. And the collectives and doing what they do. So.
Yep.
So moving forward, man, just real quick, let's just talk about predictions for the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl. I can go first here. Um, I think that Miami's gonna win. Let me
Well,
say, I think Miami's gonna
yeah.
I think Miami's gonna win. If as far as a prediction, I'm picking Miami to win, but I'm rooting for Ole Miss to win. I'll ask my ancestors for forgiveness later.
Go Rebs.
I think that I think it's an intriguing game. A lot of storylines going into this, like I'm already mentioned in terms of the Ole Miss coaching staff, the SEC. This being a third year potentially where they don't have a team in the championship game. And then obviously you got Miami coming into the game, already beaten A&M and us. And so, you think that this should be an easy game, but I think that Ole Miss's offense, Trinidad Chambliss, he's that point guard like you pointed out, in the NCAA tournament that can give his team a chance. So that's my take on that game.
Yeah, I think it should be a fun game. I am rooting against Miami. Sorry to offend you. I know you got the hat on. When I make this clip, it's gonna be like Miami fan and Ohio State fan go at it. So that's why you need an Ohio State poster in your background so you can beat the allegations. Right now, I'm definitely gonna put Mr. 305. So yeah, I think that it'll be hopefully it's a good game. I'm rooting against Miami, but you're right. It would be kind of cool to have no SEC teams in the championship game again. But I think that if Ole Miss makes it to the championship game, I would be picking the other team to win anyway. So I still feel pretty confident that Ole Miss can beat Miami and still not win a championship and keep that streak alive in terms of the winner. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rebs in this one. And in our other matchup, we had the rematch, a game that was really exciting earlier this year, surprising game from earlier this year. At the time, we were like, "Yay, Oregon's taking the loss! Like they're beatable. They got chick in the armor." We didn't know that Indiana was really the one to worry about at the time.
Yeah.
We should have been rooting for Oregon. We were so stupid. So yeah, I believe in Indiana. Let me say that to be clear. I believe in Indiana. I thought they were going to pick them to win against Alabama, but I'm think Dan Lanning kind of has to win this game, in my opinion. He has to win this game. He loses so many big games. He's lost a couple rematches in terms of him and Washington going at it. Like he did win a game against Texas Tech, but it's going to be easy to dismiss with Texas Tech is from the Big 12, and so I think it's going to be a game that Oregon needs to win even more than Indiana. Indiana has proven themselves. I think they've got over the hump. We said last time if they lost to Alabama, they would be erasing the last 2 years of history, and people would write it off. That's not going to happen anymore. Indiana is here to stay in terms of having respect, at least for one more year. So I think that the pressure is on Oregon, and I think that lifts them over the Hoosiers.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
I don't want that. I'll be rooting for Indiana. I think that would be better. I would like to see that more. But I think that, unfortunately, Oregon and Dan Lanning, the slalom, the skiing, snow, Dan Lanning, nose candy. I'm talking about straight from Venezuela. Dan
Wow.
Lanning is taking it to the head, and he'll be ready and fired up. He'll be tweaking on the sideline. You'll see his head kind of shaking a little bit. Shout out Dan.
I hey, look, got nothing to do with that. I'm gonna go with Indiana. I think that Indiana is. I mean, until they lose, right? I mean, they've got two more games. If they end up winning this game, so uh, yeah, give me the Hoosiers to be short. And then my national championship is Indiana versus Miami, and in Miami, and I'm going to go ahead and take Miami. And I'm sorry.
This
Dang.
dude,
I'm
hey
gonna
y'all, the
go
hat
ahead
is
and take.
seeping into his brain. This man is.
I'm sorry. Take two.
No, we're
I'm
not
going
cutting
to
that.
go ahead and take. Yeah, I'm not going to edit it out. I'm going to go ahead and take Indiana in that game. That's going to be crazy. The fact that Miami typically doesn't really have a home field advantage. I mean, people don't look at their home games during the regular season as home field advantage, but for them to have a game in their home stadium, things they're familiar with. I'm assuming since they're the lower seed, they would technically be the away team in this game. But for all intents and purposes, I mean, they are the Miami Hurricanes playing in Miami. It's just going to be really interesting to see if they make it to that national championship game against Indiana, what the crowd is going to look like, what the atmosphere is going to feel like. But I don't think it's anything that Indiana and Mendoza and Kurt Signetti can't overcome. So yeah, national championship Indiana Hoosiers.
Well, you
It's
got
crazy,
your
dog.
game is Indiana versus Miami. My game is Oregon versus Ole Miss. So I am going to go with Oregon. I think we're both picking the Big Ten to win. I think the winner of that game, Oregon versus Indiana, is the better team and should win the championship. Um, and so yeah, I'm going to go with Oregon, which I would hate. I really would hate it. I don't want this to happen. I'd much rather it be Indiana in my rankings for who we should be rooting for. You got, in my opinion, you got Indiana, then Ole Miss, then Oregon, and then unpictured, not pictured in this is Miami. I better not be rooting for Miami. Besides my co-host here with the hat. So yeah, I think that's what I want to see. Have you changed your mind on that? Because last time you were rooting against Indiana, have you flipped and now you're pro Hoosier?
um, I mean, I'm not. It's not that I'm pro Hoosier, but it's unfortunate that the Buckeyes aren't in it right now. So it's
But of the
it's.
four, you would want the other four teams left.
Mhm.
You're now saying you would you would like it if Indiana is the one that can win.
Yeah, I think so, man. I think for one, I mean, to say that we lost to national champions in the Big Ten championship game, there's that. Um, and I think that there's just something in my mind that with Miss's coaching staff, I just can't see how they're gonna beat Miami. So it's like I've already penciled in Miami,
Yeah.
and so if Miami went against Oregon, I think that would be a more competitive uh, national championship. And when's the last time we've had a really competitive national championship game?
I mean, our
It,
game was pretty competitive. I think.
you're talking about yeah, because I mean Notre Dame started coming back, but
Yeah.
I'm
They almost
talking
scored
from
first.
start. I'm talking from start to finish. The
They did
last
score first on us.
Yeah, okay, they score first, yes, but we ended up winning by two possessions.
I think by like 9 or
Yeah, you just nine is two
8.
possessions.
Might have been 8. Could have been 8. But I'm just saying. Okay, I hear what you're saying. There was a period in that game where it seemed like Ohio State was definitely going to win. But I think I'm still counting that as a competitive game, given the fact that they went down on like a 13 play 7.5 minute drive to start the game on us, and then they came back in the fourth quarter that required that fourth down or that long, pass to Jeremiah Smith. So I think it was a competitive game, but you're right. It wasn't a. You're looking for a game that is back and forth the entire time
from start to finish. Yeah, we won by 11. We won by 11. It was
we kicked the field goal
23.
because we kicked the field goal after the Jeremiah Smith he got caught, and we kicked the field goal. So it was an 8-point game, but yes.
But the the last time I can think of a
shout out to Fielding. Probably kicked that the big clutch field goal to go up 11.
No comment. The last competitive national championship game that I can think of was Clemson Bama. Or no, was it Bama Georgia when Alabama came back in overtime? Yeah, it's like we forget about that game, but that was the game where Tua came into the game. They benched Jalen Hurts. So it's between those two games. So anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, that's college football. I think like a lot of times those games are way more of games of runs like basketball than they are back and forth. Like it's not a lot of like the game is tied every, at 7, then at 14, then at 21. It's a lot more teams get off to leads. And then the thing about college is very hard for teams to keep leads. Kids give up leads. And so I think that that's more likely like a competitive, like our game against Miami was like a competitive game, even though for the first half we didn't score any points, you know what I'm saying? But it ended up being one because of how it ended. So, and they won by 10. So it's like that doesn't seem like a competitive game, but if you're watching that game, there was a point in the fourth quarter you thought Ohio State was going to win. I think we'll have that. I don't know if we'll have the balance, just because I feel like that's hard to find, but that'd be exciting. The first game is tomorrow, you said, right?
Tomorrow night. Yep. Thursday night.
I'm not going. I had no idea. If you would ask me when the next game was, if you had told me next game is next week, I would have said, okay, sounds right. I'm just out of it. But I know you're locked in. You're locked in with the hat. So.
Well, hopefully next year we will be in that game, the semifinal game, and in the national championship. Definitely makes us appreciate last year's run way more, I think, than we did before this year, or I would say before the playoffs started. Yeah, man, just looking forward to a great off season and a great season next year. So, yeah, signing off one last time and for this year.
Go it up.
OH.
IO. Go Bucks.